down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your host, Rick. Well, something popped, technically yesterday, I guess, but something popped in the news. I've had a lot of things going on recently. Outlaw Dogs noticed and said, hey, just wanted to check in on you, so on and so forth. I do appreciate that. I do. But I've got a lot of things going on, in life in general, as well as making sure that I am still here for all of you. So anyway, because of course I appreciate every single one of you. But anyway, I haven't really been paying too much attention to the news as much as I usually do. So there were a couple of things that popped that I was a little surprised at. And I'll be honest with you, it alarms me. Dan Bongino on his show has been saying that, hey, the constitutional republic is dead. Tyranny is here, so on and so forth. And he keeps saying that we can get it back if we do the right things and so on and so forth. Well, guess what, folks? We're like, if you were looking at a roller coaster, we're on the downhill slide, and you can see the bottom where the track is supposed to go and turn and go up, or flatten out, one or the other, but we're not there yet. And it seems like the Democrats keep throwing more track in front of us so that we're not actually hitting the bottom. What am I talking about? Well, I'll get to that here in just a minute. This is just absolutely asinine. I can't even believe that they're even doing this. So anyway, all right. But before I get into that, of course, I got some things I need to get going. So first of all, I'm glad to see that Bonnie is over on Rumble, because this is what I'm drinking tonight. The Four Roses single barrel. Yes, I went and splurged, grabbed another bottle. And so there you go. So that is just for you, Bonnie, so you can quit complaining about the fact that I'm not drinking Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, Four Roses. So there you go. You and Fat Paws can do, a little dance. Anyway, all right. So let's get on to it. Tonight's sponsor is going to be, as soon as I can figure out which button I'm supposed to press. The Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed. Boy, I am just dying here. All right. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. Please educate yourself on this document. I'm begging you. I am begging you. Educate yourself on this document. Okay. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is IOTC.whiskeymusings.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's IOTC.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, please go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Look at this thing. It's got rounded corners. It's 1/8 of an inch, roughly, of Saddleback leather. The pages inside are water resistant, and check out this threaded binding. It goes all the way through the leather, and is just absolutely fabulous. And it's a great stocking stuffer. We're coming up to the holiday season where you hand out, give out stockings and presents and things like that. It is perfect. A perfect stocking stuffer. It is buddy tested and buddy approved. It is also my youngest whiskey warrior out there has used this confidently to pass his civics badge in Scouts. Believe me, you can trust the information that is in this document. You can trust this product, this software they have, or software. What am I saying? It is soft. They have a 100-year warranty against materials and workmanship. So if something goes wrong with this in the next 100 years, you can contact the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. Constitution.whiskeymusings.online, or also go to IOTC.whiskeymusings.online to check out the other Institute on the Constitution materials and information. Go check them out today, and I appreciate them for allowing me to be an affiliate and a brand ambassador for them. I do appreciate that. Awesome group, awesome website, and everything else. And of course, anything that you buy there when you go to follow those links helps to support the show. All right. So let's move on just a little bit here. I'm just going to say the verdict is in. Here's my gavel. I haven't pulled this out very often. I try not to pull it out very often, but here it is. Here's my gavel, folks. The verdict is in. Yes, the verdict is in. Tyranny has come to America. We have tyranny here in America. I can't even believe that I'm saying that. I really can't. I am so shocked and amazed. But before I get into that, let me do a fan favorite, of course. Let's go on to On This Day in American History. And of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac. It is written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full, thick book, chock full of all kinds of American factoids and things about our historical founding and our historical fantastical country here, the best in the world, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions too. All right, so let's get to it. Today is September 9th. We're going to talk about a little bit about President Abraham Lincoln's bumpy road. On September 9th, 1836, Abraham Lincoln earned his license to practice law in Illinois. A sweet victory for a prairie lad with less than a year of formal education. Like all others, Lincoln's life was bumpy with both successes and setbacks. I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing so until the end, he said. In 1832, he was elected captain of an Illinois militia company. In 1832, he was defeated in his attempt for state legislature. In 1833, he failed in business. In 1833, he was appointed postmaster of New Salem, Illinois. In 1834, he succeeded and got elected to the state legislature. In 1835, his sweetheart died. In 1836, he received his license to practice law in Illinois. In 1838, he was unfortunately defeated for the Speaker of the Illinois House. In 1841, he suffered deep depression. In 1842, he married Mary Todd. In 1844, he established his own law practice. In 1846, he was elected to the U.S. Congress. In 1849, he failed to get an appointment to the U.S. Land Office. In 1850, his 4-year-old son died. In 1855, he was defeated in his election run for the U.S. Senate. In 1857, he earned a large attorney fee in a very successful case. In 1858, he again was defeated running for Senate. And in 1860, of course, as we all know, he was elected president of the United States. And that is today's On This Day in American History. Excuse me, got to recirculate stuff. Well, as I said before, our tyranny is here. Tyranny is here, folks. There's a lot of people like myself, and I honestly had never thought that this day would come. I never believed for a second that we would have this come to our shores. I am just appalled, shocked, and amazed. I mean, I know that, the Congress and Senate, the House of Representatives, Senate's filled with a whole bunch of anti-American sentiment people. I understand that, and they sometimes write laws that are questionable in nature and so on and so forth. But I've always had a belief that the system and its foundational constructs would take care of all of that and correct and do a course correction on the ship whenever somebody who is a complete moron grabs the wheel. Well, unfortunately, folks, I'm feeling a little off-put tonight, and I honestly think that we are in dire straits. We are in very dire straits. I was talking to Stephen Stiles this week, and of course, he actually had some very interesting thoughts in terms of if Biden doesn't go into 2024, if he gets, taken out by whatever, health reasons, 25th Amendment, or he just decides not to run. He offered up a possible replacement. And this replacement person was not Kamala Harris. For those of you who are thinking about it, Kamala Harris, yeah. Well, everybody knows what I think of Kamala Harris. But anyway, the thing about it is that he offered up a virtual unknown, at least to me anyway, because I don't pay attention to a lot of the governorships out there. I know about my governor, and then of course I know about some of the governors that are parading about on the national stage, such as Gavin Gruesome Newsom and Ron DeSantis. But the thing about it is that this person, he kind of suggested, could have been like a complete shadow dark horse kind of scenario. And this individual was the New Mexico governor. Now, I had not heard a single thing about her. I had not heard anything, not even a peep about her. Okay. And the thing about it is that, she is kind of like Asa Hutchinson as a way. If you aren't really into or are not really paying attention to all aspects of politics, which, to everyone's credit is increasingly difficult because there's so much going on around here, that to sit here and to say like the New Mexico governor is a potential person to take the place of of our current administration disaster, it warranted my attention a little bit. I had to go and kind of think about that and be like, yeah, all right. We'll have to see what's going on. Well, he offered her up, honestly. Stephen did. He offered her up as like kind of a moderate that maybe, he would, maybe she would kind of bring back some of the moderate Democrat stances. Everybody keeps pushing for all this moderism. Everybody needs to be a moderate because you have Biden, who was supposed to be a moderate, and he got like yanked full on to the left. And then you have, somebody like, Mitt Romney keeps talking about being a moderate Republican, even though he's a rhino. I mean, I know he's a rhino, okay, but still, I couldn't think of any. But they always talk. You listen to these Republicans; they always talk. Hey, we need to stop the extremism of the party. Okay. But here's the thing: I don't think really that we have any moderates anymore. I honestly don't believe that we have any moderates anymore, especially on the left. Especially on the left. Let me show you what I'm talking about here, because this just totally blew my mind when I heard this and when I saw this. This popped in the Associated Press. New Mexico governor issues order suspending the right to carry firearms in public access or in public across Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, here's the thing. Apparently, New Mexico, Albuquerque in particular, has had a lot of gun violence here recently. And so she has decided, apparently, her name's Michelle Lujan Grisham. And apparently on Friday, she issued an emergency order suspending the right to carry firearms in public across Albuquerque and the surrounding county for at least 30 days in response to a spate of gun violence. The Democratic, I hate that, it's Democrat. The Democrat governor said she expects legal challenges, but was compelled to act because of recent shootings, including the death of an 11-year-old boy outside a minor league baseball stadium this week. Grisham said state police would be responsible for enforcing what amounts to civil violations. Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina said he won't enforce it, and Bernalillo County Sheriff John Allen said he's uneasy about it because it raises too many questions about constitutional rights. Okay, so here's the thing, folks, all right? And this is where the rubber is really going to meet the road, okay? I've already covered this as a part of the constitutional sheriff. And in fact, the sheriff is, according to all case-related information, according to the Constitution, according to all just a whole host of legal scholars and everything else, the sheriff of any particular county is the highest law enforcement official of that county. If you look at people like police chiefs, if you look at the state police, even if you look at the FBI, none of them can tell that sheriff what they can do. The sheriff can actually kick out other law enforcement agencies if they desire. Okay? There was in fact, on that other episode that I was talking about the constitutional sheriff, there was a gentleman who challenged the 1994 assault weapons ban and basically told them, or told the federal government, that he was not going to enforce any background checks. And so he was, he basically took it to court. His name was Mark Lamb. And at least I'm pretty sure it was Mark Lamb. Anyway, I know his last name was Lamb. I can't remember if it was Mark or something else, but I believe it's Mark Lamb. But anyway, he went ahead and took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed with him that he did not have to do the what he considered the unconstitutional background checks of the 1994 assault weapons ban. Folks, we are getting to a time now where we need people like that to stand up to these tyrannical moves by these people. Don't just sit here and think that this story, this story is a big deal and so on and so forth. Let me just show you what she said. Okay. Now this was posted on X. Give me just a second. Let me get it up here. But this was posted on X. This is her in the middle at a, it looks like some sort of a press conference. I think it was part of the signing of the executive order. And just take a listen to what she is saying.
Yeah. But your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carrying license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those too. And if we ignore this growing problem without being bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute. Okay. You're talking about crimes. There are already laws against the crimes, so how are their rights?
I got it. But again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right? If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
Madam Governor,
Yep.
do you really think that criminals are going to hear this message and not carry a gun in Albuquerque on the streets for 30 days?
No. But here's what I do think. It's a pretty resounding message.
Okay. There's just so much that is wrong with this. All right. Last I heard, criminals don't follow laws. Last I heard, criminals do not, care, obviously, about the consequences. Okay. These people seem to think that the Constitution, and I'm telling you, look in this. Look, you might think this was a pitch for this, but I don't care. Go to the internet, read through the Constitution. There is not one single sentence, not one single word, not one single iota of an inkling that this can be suspended in any way, shape, or form by the government. In fact, folks, this document is specifically to prevent government from taking over like this woman is doing, like what she is doing. This document is designed as a fence for government. It has nothing to do with the people. In fact, the people handed this over to the government to tell the government what they can and cannot do. That's what this document is for, folks. This isn't a directive to individuals to say this is what you can and cannot do. No, this is from the people and the states, by the way, because the states are over and above the federal government. But this is a document that basically outlines to the federal government what they are allowed to do and what they cannot touch. And anything, according to the 10th Amendment, anything that is not written in here specifically to either one, be a specific action of the federal government, or two, be specifically denied the states by this document, then it falls to the states or to the people. That's what the brilliance of the 10th Amendment is, people. The 9th Amendment basically says that the rights don't end right here, that they can be anything. But the 10th Amendment clearly states that the federal government is bound by what is in that Constitution. That's it. There is nothing else. We as the American people have allowed to step and allowed the government to essentially grow out beyond the boundaries of the Constitution. And I am getting so tired. I am so tired of these people who have decided that they can just throw the Constitution out, who can just toss it and say, you know what? Today we're not going to follow it. We're not going to follow the Constitution. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Yeah. Sorry, but tyranny is here, folks. Tyranny is on our shores, and it is now out in the open. I mean, it's no longer this little like, oh, he's been accused of a crime, and we're going to kind of take him, maybe based on the outcome of the crime. No, it's no longer. Tyranny is here. These Democrats, if we lose 2024, and this is going to sound really, really bad, but and I hate to be this kind of absolutist, but if we lose 2024, our Constitutional Republic is dead. It is dead. It is gone. We are on the very, very edge of complete collapse for this. And I'm sorry. I hate to be this absolutist, but it's really, really just something. And honestly, I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, she's just the governor. Yeah. You don't think that other governors don't, this is how bad this is. This is how bad this is. Okay. This is how bad this is. Here is her account. Okay. Here is her account. And I took a look to see who was following her. My governor follows her. If you don't think that these governors don't all follow one another on X, formerly known as Twitter, you're wrong. They all do. And believe me, if one gets away with it, they're all going to try. California has been getting away with a whole bunch of stuff because nobody in the state basically has the cojones or the desire to stand up against these people. You can't. You cannot believe this. So here's her order. She posted it on Twitter. Here's her order. Okay. This is the order as she posted it on Twitter. And here is her signing it right here. Folks, if you honestly believe that these people have any iota to think that they have any care about the Constitution, okay? Yeah. It's just, believe me, I sincerely hope and pray that there are enough people in New Mexico, that there is somebody in New Mexico, some lawyer with the balls to go after this and freaking shut this down now in the courts. Shut this down now. This kind of crap needs to be, these people need to get reined in and understand that they cannot do this, that they work for us. And it's high time that we find a way to make sure these people understand that this is what's going on. Now, I've missed a couple of Rumble rants here from the same person. I got to get over here. Daybreak 3 says, how can we undo this? And, honestly, I'm going to be right now. The first thing, keep in mind, I am not a violent person. Okay. I don't believe in political violence toward political violence's end. Political violence is literally the last resort in any way, shape, or form of anything. Okay. We need to challenge these in court. People need to stop being passive. We have got to get active. We've got to turn into activists, just like the left. Old rules are out. We can't appease these people. We can't have these people think that they're going to just be able to, so on and so forth. you know, that we're just going to back down and kowtow to these people anymore. They're like the bully in the schoolyard. They take a little, 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 and boom. Next thing you know, you're having your lunch money stolen every day, and so on and so forth. There's no violent way to do this, but we can attempt to try and do it through the legal means. And we've got to push that not only this stuff, we've got to push it through the courts. That's the method by which we check and balance. We use the court system just like the left has. You've got to use the court system to check these people, to balance these people out and to get them. The second thing, obviously, is to go and get these people voted out at the voters booth. You've got to get rid of these people. You need to start educating folks on not only the Constitution of the United States and their rights, okay, and what this thing says, all right? We need to get people, we need to start standing up. We can't be sitting here thinking that we're just gonna let these people kind of, oh, we'll just, you know what, we'll kind of give them this and so on and so forth. No, we're at the end of the rope here. We've been giving them, we as conservatives, because we just want to be left alone. And this is part of the problem. All we want to do is be left alone and live our lives the way, you know, we want to live them. These leftists, they don't care. They don't want that. They want total 100% control. They want to be able to tell you what you can do, when you can do it, and how you can do it, how you're going to pay for it. And oh, by the way, if you fall out of line, yeah, we're going to, you know, crush out your living. COVID, the whole COVID thing, the masking, the vaccines, all of that, that was what these people wanted. They saw that as an opportunity, like Rahm Emanuel says. They saw an opportunity and they used it. We can no longer live in fear. Fear is okay. Being afraid is fine. But losing to fear is not. We can't be afraid anymore. Being fearful is one thing, but we cannot be afraid of these people anymore. Once one person stands up and you get a 2-person and a 4th person and 100 people, and then you start getting 1,000 people, we've got to start banding together. We can no longer stand on the sidelines here, people. And I'm just as guilty. I'll be honest with you. I'm just as guilty. I've stood on the sidelines up until the point that I started this podcast and started flipping it into the political sphere. I stood on the sidelines because I was afraid that if I did something or I said something wrong, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not. I'm sorry. You guys want to come to me? Come to me. I'm done. I'm done kowtowing to you people. I'm done kowtowing. This is the Constitution of the United States of America. And last I saw, we still live in the United States of America. This law is unenforceable, is what Buddy is saying, and that's true. It is, until the Gestapo police decide to enforce it. See, that's the problem, is that these guys, these peace officers, these people who swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, should have immediately looked at her and been like, yeah, we're not enforcing it. You can sign that, go ahead, but we're not enforcing it. I'm done. I'm done with this. COVID showed these people that we would succumb to their tyranny. That's essentially it. COVID gave them the green light to do all of this crap. Well, there's some presidential candidates that are out there, of course. The response to this, Governor Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy blasted Grisham's action on infringing on the Second Amendment of the United States, which allows the right to bear arms. DeSantis Grisham for using a public health emergency for depriving citizens of civil liberties and trampling on our constitutional rights. He, of course, promised to never infringe on the Second Amendment rights of the if elected president, which, of all the things that he talks about, I would say that this would be, this would be obvious to anyone who has held up their hand and swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And yes, I am not just reciting that because I know what it says. I actually stood up, held my hand up, and said that at one time back in 1990, and I was never relieved of that oath. So yeah, I mean, this is just crazy. I don't even understand how she, I don't even understand how she can be. Anyway. Well, it's not just this. We've actually been, and here's kind of the thing. This is an overt act. This is an overt act on this. But here's something else that came through. And you asked about what can we do? Well, here's what we can do. We can take it to the courts. So here in a Daily Caller piece, apparently an appeals court finds that the Biden admin actually did violate the First Amendment by encouraging censorship. A federal appeals court partially affirmed a lower court's finding on Friday that Biden administration officials violated the First Amendment by coercing social media companies to censor speech. So the Fifth Circuit Court affirmed a lower court's judgment that the White House, Surgeon General, CDC, and FBI violated the First Amendment, while finding that the district court erred in finding that the NIAID officials, CISA officials, and State Department officials likely violated the plaintiff's First Amendment rights. Yet it found the injunction issued by District of Louisiana Judge Terry Doherty in July was vague and broader than necessary. So this is all stemming from that Missouri and Louisiana case with regards to social media companies censoring and everything else. And that's where all of this is coming up on it. And I told you, this is going to go, I believe this is going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to have to slap Biden down again. But anyway, continuing in the piece, the court wrote, this is the Fifth Circuit Court wrote, ultimately, we find the district court did not err in determining that several officials, namely the White House, the Surgeon General, the CDC, and the FBI, likely coerced or significantly encouraged social media platforms to moderate content, rendering those decisions state actions. In doing so, the officials likely violated the First Amendment. So Doherty had apparently granted a broad injunction barring President Biden's administration from colluding with pro-censorship nonprofit organizations, okay, in addition to social media companies, in the free speech lawsuit of Missouri versus Biden. I told you this one's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, I'm sure. The injunction found the government officials likely violated the First Amendment by suppressing protected speech. And the order states that government actors are barred from collaborating, coordinating, partnering, switchboarding, and or jointly working with research groups and projects that advocate for censorship. Now, that was the broad injunction. However, the Fifth Circuit axed 9 of the 10 provisions in the injunction, but kept provision 6, which bars officials from threatening, pressuring, or coercing companies to remove speech, though it altered the language to avoid capturing otherwise legal speech. So the modified injunction basically states that under the modified injunction, the enjoined defendants cannot coerce or significantly encourage a platform's content moderation decisions. The ruling explained such conduct includes threats of adverse consequences, even if those threats are not verbalized and never materialize, so long as a reasonable person would construe a government's message as alluding to some form of punishment. The court also extended the Biden administration request to fully freeze the injunction for 10 days pending their application to the Supreme Court. So like I said, it's going to the Supreme Court. Here we go, folks. Here we go. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest. I mean, I don't even, I honestly, I don't even know how to say it. This administration by itself is doing things that it shouldn't. And yeah, this is just crazy. Oh, this is just crazy. It really is. And it's not just New Mexico. I mean, here's an example. So now Liberty Safe, I don't know if anybody, I don't have an article on this, but I have seen it in the news. I don't know if anybody knows, but Liberty Safe put out a statement earlier this week, basically saying that they would hand over the master unlock code to the Federal Bureau of Investigation for their safes, specifically their weapons safes, their gun safes. And they released a statement essentially telling the public, hey, you know, we need to comply with this request. We're going to do it. Now, for those of you who have memories longer than a Democrat, you can remember that there was a lot of hubbub over the Apple company blocking access for the FBI into people's phones. They refused to break in to people's phones, even when complying with a court order and a search warrant. Now, that's obviously moot anymore because all of that has been resolved at this point, but they started out standing up to it. And here we now have another organization, which is a non-governmental organization that is basically, you know, they were going to supply just the unlock code itself. They were just going to unlock code the whole thing. Now, you know, complying with a court-ordered search warrant is one thing, but going and just supplying an unlock code in a broad base and broad sense and saying, hey, we'll supply it. You know, it would have been better had Liberty Safe just said, look, as a part of our compliance with this, we'll come and unlock it for you. That way it was only the one safe or the two safes or whatever. It happened to be people who were being accused of dealing with issues surrounding January 6th. Apparently they were at the rally. And as you know, the January 6th folks have all been persecuted, arguably wrongly and strongly, for their appearance and patriotically assembling, as is their First Amendment right to peaceably assemble. Some of these people may not have done anything bad in terms of other than just being there. And, you know, it's a public house. That's one of the things that's really, that the Capitol itself is a public house. It's open to the public. So, you know, again, a lot of these cases have been cases that have received extra strong and extra long punishments that shouldn't have been, but they have. And so again, I point out the tyranny is here. And as well, leading the way for the tyranny, gosh, the California coast. California is just horrible. Okay, so California here, check this out. This is in the Post-Millennial. California Assembly passes a bill allowing judges to award custody to a parent that will allow child to undergo the sex change. So in other words, if two parents go into court and they argue over whether or not their child is going to have a sex change, the California Assembly has now passed a bill to allow the judge to basically award custody to the parent that, of course, is the one that is going to allow the kid to have a sex change. Rather than protecting the child from harm, they are going to allow the judge to choose. So the California Assembly voted to pass AB 957, a bill that would take into consideration a parent's affirmation of a child's gender identity when making custody rulings. The bill passed in the Assembly 57-16 after being amended in the Senate. The bill now heads to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk for his signature, and he's going to sign it. Guarantee you he's going to sign it. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. I mean, this Wiener guy, this is the picture of the guy who's got his shirt off. That's Anthony Weiner, who freaking had a law passed, and I talked about this probably about a year ago, had a law passed that talked about underage minors can actually like consent to sex or something. California is the worst. If you live in California, and I'm sorry, I know people who live in California. If you live in California and you have the means, you really need to leave. It's lost. She's gone. I'm sorry. It was a once beautiful state. It produced the greatest, in my opinion, and arguably the greatest president in modern history, Ronald Reagan. It used to be conservative. It used to be a Republican stronghold, and I don't know what happened, but it freaking went down the toilet. Anyway. Yeah, so it says that the bill, which was introduced by Assembly Member Lauren Wilson alongside its Senate bill by Scott Wiener, okay, it was amended by the Senate most recently on August 17th, 2023. The bill would amend the state's family code to read that in making custody determinations, the, quote, health, safety, and welfare of the child would be taken into consideration. This includes a parent affirmation of the child's gender identity or gender expression. And of course, the bill has received backlash from California parents who gathered at the state capitol in August to protest the bill along with other legislation. Well, folks, they're runaway. They're no longer representing. I'm sorry. They're just not representing us. They're just not representing the people anymore. They need to be reminded of this. We need to get them out of office. We need to get them out of office. Whew. All right. I'm sweating here. All right. I got to take a second. Hey, if you like the show and would like to get some great looking logoed gear, you need to head off to store.whiskeymusings.online. That's store.whiskeymusings.online. Check out this offering. I have aprons, logoed hoodies and sweatshirts. I've got all kinds of motto gear. I call them motto because it has my motto. When I drink, I think on it. I've got glasses, mugs, water bottles, wine tumblers, all kinds of stuff. I have t-shirts, tank tops, just V-neck shirts, crew neck shirts. I've got all kinds of stuff. Head on over to store.whiskeymusings.online and check out the plethora of colors and styles that I have available. I've got women's racerback tank tops. I've got, there are sweats and jogger pants for the ladies. There's all kinds of different colors and styles available. Just head on over to store.whiskeymusings.online. And yes, 3 Chevy asks, got a Pilsner glass. That is this pint tumbler. Check this out. I've got it in 2 different styles. I have it in white, lettering, which doesn't show up very well on the screen, but I have it in white lettering for when your drink goes in, then everybody can see it. Or you can also get it in black lettering right here, which allows it to sit, and it basically says, when I drink, I think. And it is just, yeah, it is just a fabulous place. Go and check it out. And hey, if you want to hide that drink that you're drinking, so let's say you might be drinking someplace that you're not supposed to, you can get this motto drinkware black lettering as well, which it's a stainless steel tumbler with a top on it. I also have, let me see what else we have here. Yeah, this is the pint glass. So these are the pint glasses. I also have the pint glass with the logo on it as well, with my Whiskey Musings logo on it too. And, yeah, it's just, I've got a fabulous collection. I've got some mugs and things like that too. And again, t-shirts, sweatshirts galore. Go and check it out. store.whiskeymusings.online. I've got, some people like Bam over here on Rumble says, again, love my sweatshirt. Thank you very much. It took her a little while to get it because it was kind of an interesting order, but, yeah, they're just great. Yeah, so go and check it out. store.whiskeymusings.online. And of course, I try to keep the prices low. I keep them as low as I can. I only take a little bit off the top for the show, but the rest of it is actually the cost of the product. So do me a favor, head on over to store.whiskeymusings.online and check out all of the things that I have available for you. My wonderful Whiskey Warrior P1s can show your pride and support of the show. Thank you. I do appreciate that. For you guys, I do appreciate that. All right, so let's move on. I kind of got off track here on my soapbox, but anyway, so we have the election coming up, and a lot of people have been looking at the polling and everything else. I mean, Donald Trump, let's just say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is Donald Trump's race to lose within the Republican Party. He is something like 30 to 40 points ahead of his nearest competitor, which, depending upon the poll, could be either Ron DeSantis or Vivek Ramaswamy. Mostly it's Ron DeSantis. And yeah, he is far and away the leader in terms of who's going to get nominated at this moment in time. So unless he does something completely stupid or something really goes off the rails, then I think that we are probably going to end up with a Trump, potentially Biden scenario. However, one thing that you do have to watch for, now for those of you that don't know, Politico is the leftist kind of early warning system. Think of them as sort of like the canary in the coal mine, because they talk about stuff, and the Political Playbook in particular is a very, very good place to see where the left is, where their head and their mindset is at. Now, granted, I know they don't really have a lot of mind, but that being said, the Politico gives you an indication, especially the Playbook gives you an indication as to where they are going with their thought process. Well, they're a little scared. So here from the Politico Playbook, this article popped, why 2024 might be a 2016 redo. So first of all, Nancy Pelosi announced yesterday, I don't know why these geriatrics seem to think that they can live until they're, 90 or 100 years old and make really good decisions. But anyway, Pelosi told Jonathan Martin that she is going to run for re-election. So there you go. That's the first thing. That's right off the top. All right. Right off the top. But there are several people who are having doubts about Biden. So you got to kind of scroll down a little bit in the piece to get to it. But the thing about it is that they are obviously they're talking about his age, talking about the economy, which I've got a little bit on that if I can get to it here in just a little bit. You know, a blue state governor, see here, they're even suggesting, is it too late for a blue state governor to replace him? Which, of course, as I just mentioned, Stephen Stiles was talking about the New Mexico governor potentially being a decent replacement. Or, of course, everybody is just assuming that Gavin Newsom wants to step into the spotlight. But there's other stuff to dig in. So one of the things that is a creeping concern by them is not so much that, 2024 is going to be like 2020 and 2022 in terms of a combination, but that it's actually going to harken back to 2016. And so one of their biggest vulnerabilities that they're talking about is the comparison between Trump and Biden, and Trump's legal troubles, Biden's son's legal troubles being basically kind of a wash. Okay. They talked about that. They have talked about the economy. And when you look at the economy under Bidenomics, which I think I've proven multiple times, and like I said, I have a little bit more if I get to it about that. But the whole Bidenomics things, Bidenomics is not very popular to the American people. Okay. The American people in general, okay, are not feeling the fact that Bidenomics is supposedly doing so well. They're not feeling the fact that the numbers are demonstrating according to this administration. And it's only according to this administration because if you watch this program or listen to this program on the audio portion, you will know that it's clearly not where it should be. And you also have, a couple of other things like Trump's megalomaniac incompetence. That's their words, not mine. Is no different than Biden's cognitive decline. So there's a lot of points that they bring up within this article that are leaning or pushing toward the potential. And this is part of the reason, honestly, why the polling is such that when you get Trump out of the Republican primary and you put him head to head with Biden, that they're only polling at 46%. They're not really polling very clearly between the two of them. I mean, as I've said, you basically have two garbage candidates essentially going head to head with each other. We don't have a standout candidate because if we did, it would be, the voting would all be over. The polls would clearly show that the voting was over. Well, you know what? That's kind of what happened in 2016. For those of you who have a memory a little bit longer than a liberal leftist does. 2016 was supposed to be her year. I'm with her. I'm with her. You remember that? Remember that as a candidate, as a campaign slogan? I'm with her. And she was the anointed one to take over from Obama. And yes, I kind of crossed the screen here in a Catholic motion because she was the anointed one. And then Hillary basically lost. I won't say she got spanked, but she pretty much got lost. She pretty much lost. Okay. And the reason for all of that, of course, is the fact that you ended up with Donald Trump, who was outside of the TV and entertainment world, was a relative unknown in the political sphere. And then you had Hillary, who was literally disliked and a garbage candidate. Okay. And, and she just was an awful, awful candidate. And people did not want her as president, even though she had the belief that she was the anointed one. She was going to take over from Obama, and she was going to lead the country into essentially another 4 years of, horribleness, just to put it mildly. So anyway, the point is though, that there's several leftists who are saying, leftist pundits and that, who are basically saying that we have several historical unusual factors in this case as well. One is that Biden is our first octogenarian president. He also has to perform in a 24/7 media culture, which, Yeah, that's true. I mean, 24/7, everybody, you have to perform well. Well, when you stand that up against Trump and images of Trump walking around with his tie taken off and that kind of stuff, working all hours. I mean, I'm sorry, but Trump's got him beat in that sense. And apparently, they're saying that because he has to perform in a media culture, 24/7 media culture, his visible aspects of aging, such as his more prevalent stammer, can't be hidden. Well, yeah, of course they can't. And they're saying that age is going to be an X factor of unknown relevance until the votes are tallied, according to Bill Scher. He also says, but it's also true that almost every time there is an age gap between the candidates, the younger candidate's campaign tries to exploit it. Now, for those of you who remember the Ronald Reagan Walter Mondale debate, because again, this goes back a few years, but you can still find it online. Ronald Reagan actually used that to an advantage. He basically went and turned it around and said, well, I'm not going to comment about my opponent's youth and inexperience. And Ronald Reagan was he was incredible as far as that goes. But essentially what we're dealing with here is again, a lot of different factors that are not being present in the polls, because unfortunately we have what is considered to be a very divided country. I actually think it's a little bit more of we're getting tired. A lot of people are getting tired about having, two people who basically are not necessarily standout candidates. Okay. And keep in mind, okay, Donald Trump, I'm just saying Donald Trump is likely going to win the nomination. Does that mean that I agree with all of Donald Trump's stuff? No. Does that mean that I believe that Donald Trump is a standout candidate and the best we've ever seen? Absolutely not. What I think is that Donald Trump's going to win the candidacy, the primary. He's going to be going up against probably Joe Biden, and that I think that in order for us to save this republic, we are all going to have to get back behind him, regardless of what you think of him, regardless of your feelings for the man personally. Now, again, is he a complete standout candidate? No, he's got some problems. He's got issues. Just look at all of the legal issues that he's got. Never mind what the leftists have thrown at him. He's got his own legal battles. He does have a problem and an issue with his narcissism. I've talked about this before. I'm not going to make it a hidden factor. I'm sorry. I will be on the Trump train when Trump wins the primary. I will be on the DeSantis train if DeSantis were to magically win the primary. I would be on the Tim Scott train if he magically wins the primary. I would be on the Nikki Haley train because, in my personal opinion, right now, right this minute, 2024 has to be the year in which we turn this ship around. We cannot sit here and allow this ship to continue on its course. We have got to turn it around. So no matter what happens, whether it's Trump or DeSantis or any of the other candidates, we need to get behind whoever is in charge, because we have to defeat as many Democrats as we can in order to get this ship back in the right track. Okay. Now, that being the case, Is Trump the right man for the job? Well, out of the candidates that we have available, yes. That's it. That's it. Okay, so yeah, I would suggest if you haven't already, sign up for Politico. It's interesting to listen or to read and watch what they do. They've got a whole bunch of other worries and things like that in here with regards to it, but they are nervous. They are really nervous because their boy Biden is not doing a very good showing. And what's worse is they have the person in the background who is polling, whose likability polls are even worse than Joe Biden, if that could even be the case. But the worse than Joe Biden. But hey, Gavin Newsom says, according to the Post Millennial, that Kamala Harris is naturally the one lined up to succeed Joe Biden. So he actually has said, and he quoted, this is in an interview, I think the vice president is naturally the one lined up. So in the interview, he was asked one of those questions that, of course, was veiled as a "Are you running for president?" kind of question. And this is where he stated in no uncertain terms, according to the piece, during a recent interview with NBC's Meet the Press, California Governor Gavin Newsom stated in no uncertain terms that he believed Kamala Harris was Joe Biden's natural successor for the president of the United States. Appearing to dismiss the possibility of throwing his own hat into the ring, Newsom said he fully supported a Biden-Harris ticket going into 2024, adding that he was confident the current leadership team would defeat their Republican counterparts and win re-election. Chuck Todd asked him, again, veiled question, filing deadlines haven't passed. If President Biden doesn't run, why shouldn't we consider you a likely candidate? Newsom replies, I think the vice president is naturally the one lined up, pointing out that filing deadlines were quickly approaching. We need to move past this notion that he's not going to run. President Biden is going to run and looking forward to getting reelected, he added. Newsom slammed Democrats and their supporters for wallowing at the thought of Biden seeking a second term, claiming he firmly believed the current commander-in-chief has what it takes to come out on top. He said, let's see. Who is this? Chuck Todd goes, am I supposed to interpret the comment about the vice president that if for some reason the president chose not to run at this point, everyone rallies around her? Newsom replies, it's the Biden-Harris administration, adding that maybe I'm a little old-fashioned about presidents and vice presidents. Okay, so this is a huge demonstration, honestly, of where we are with things like the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans, okay? This is where we really have a difference. See, the Democrats have long since had an opportunity whenever, I mean, even if they infight, okay, even if they don't like each other, they don't like conservatives, the Constitution, the American value system, the family, any other number of things that you might want to say. They hate all of that even worse. So even if they dislike each other, even if they don't agree with one another, they do have one thing in common. They love to be able to rally the troops, circle the wagons, and will totally 100% defend against a conservative and or a Republican, whichever one you want to call it. Okay. So this is essentially where we're at. Okay. The Republicans, on the other hand, and conservatives, we tend to stand a little off on our own. If someone isn't exactly the way that we want them to be, we tend to argue with them and everything else. But when it comes to a Democrat attacking us, it's just, we kind of just say, that's par for the course. And we don't even think about it. But that's the difference that we need to make here in 2024. We got to set those differences aside. We have to set those aside, and we have to get behind whoever it is. We have to close our ranks, folks. We can't just stand here and think that, oh, you know what, Ron DeSantis, yeah, he's been backed by, Paul Ryan or whatever. And he ends up getting the nomination. And just like we had somebody the other night who was sitting there saying, oh, I don't care what happens. If Trump gets off the ballot because of some stupid legal thing, then I'm going to write him in. You're losing your vote, folks. Our end goal has to be one thing and one thing only, and that is getting rid of the Democrat administration. If we cannot do that, we are going to lose this country, in my opinion. We are going to lose this country if we cannot get rid of this Democrat administration. We cannot afford petty infighting anymore. We have to win the final vote. Okay? We have to win the final vote. We cannot sit here and just basically say, throw it all away. We're done. Because that's a sure way of losing as well. That's a sure way of losing too. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of people are going to be like, no, that's not the way it goes. Look, the fact of the matter is we have a two-party system. You have no other choice. You have to reach 270 in order to make it to the presidential Oval Office. Okay? If you cannot reach 270, if any candidate cannot reach 270, we're done. It goes into the House of Representatives, and let's be honest with you, the House of Representatives, they are going to vote 100% along party lines. They're going to vote Democrat, Republican, and the independents are just going to go probably with the Democrats, because let's face it, there are no independent Republicans anymore. There are no independent conservatives. That's mathematics. That's statistics. That's the way it works. We cannot lose that. We have to focus on one thing and one thing only. The primary objective is getting rid of the Democrat leadership. That's our primary objective. That's where we should be, honestly. So, okay. Well, more information, speaking of elections, more information has come out. Breitbart here has an article really quick with regards to this, and it says Chinese influence network used AI to impersonate U.S. voters. So, look, we all know that, Russians, the Chinese, they're all trying to influence our elections because it's pretty obvious, especially with Joe Biden in the Oval Office, taking bribes and payments and being the most corrupt president, I think, in modern history. And that's saying a lot considering Nixon was in office and resigned because of Watergate. But the point here is that AI was actually used. According to the piece here, again in Breitbart, Microsoft on Thursday said it detected a Chinese-controlled network of social media accounts that uses AI technology to impersonate American voters and spread propaganda to influence U.S. politics. Shouldn't be a surprise to folks, but apparently now they're turning it over and making computers be the big thing. And the computers are now taking care of it, which, of course, GTP or GPT, whatever it is, these guys are the ones that are, that's like the first publicly available AI, and people are using it to turn in their homework assignments. So why not? From the piece, Microsoft's report said the suspected Chinese influence network was similar to past operations that have been linked to the Chinese Ministry of Public Security. The difference with the new network is that it began using generative AI in March 2023 to mimic U.S. voters and produce content that was more eye-catching than the awkward visuals used in previous campaigns by Chinese nation-state actors, which relied on digital drawings, stock photo collages, and other manual graphic designs. These images are most likely created by something called diffusion-powered image generators that use AI not only to create compelling images, but also learn to improve them over time, Microsoft said. The influence network engaged in a broad campaign that largely focuses on politically divisive topics such as gun violence and denigrating U.S. political figures and symbols. An example presented by the Microsoft researchers was an AI-generated image of the Statue of Liberty brandishing an assault rifle over a caption that said, "Everything is being thrown away, the goddess of violence." Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I'm taking a few shots. Hey, I want to take it over on the Rumble. That's fine. Hey, I want to take a second and talk to you really quick about a wonderful new launch we just launched on September 5th. I want to tell you a little bit about the True Grit Roots Network and our newest genre-specific channel, TGRN Blues. 11 blues lovers have come together to create this dedicated 24/7 blues channel from the True Grit Roots Network. Join the Real Lady A, Gina Coleman from Misty Blues, Big Daddy Ray Hansen, Jeff Hayes, Holly Harris, Angela Easley, Vinnie Marini, Amber Hill, Ray Brown, Memphis Mark, and of course, Jonathan Oogie Richards, as they share the blues every week with original first-run shows from the TGRN Blues channel. Show calendars and more information are available at tgrn.net, which I have up here on the screen, tgrn.net. You can check it out right here. We have the TGRN Blues specific channels, and you can see all of our team. You can look at their bios and check out some of what they talk about. And then you can also check out our weekly schedule. Like right now, the Mighty Mouth Blues is playing. This is a repeat show, but the Mighty Mouth Blues is playing right now on tgrn.net, the TGRN Blues channel. And then, of course, after him, you have Wednesday Night Juke Joint with Jeff Hayes on that as well. You can also check out the topics on the shows. You can click on the shows link under the TGRN Blues channel, and you can check out all of the shows that are available right here on True Grit Roots Network, tgrn.net. Breaking boundaries for authentic roots radio, True Grit Roots Network, tgrn.net, Austin, Texas. And by the way, just as a informational piece, I am a part owner in that organization. So heading on over and listening to them, that's great. Support our sponsors that are over there. And support our on-air personalities too. All right. So it looks like I'm coming to the end of the show. Let me see. Hey, I just want to point out, I've got a couple of things here, really quick. Normally, I mentioned this actually. Normally I kind of go into the economy and stuff like that, but I want to throw, this out there with regards to this. 'Cause I've talked about this before too. So in specific, I've talked about it with California, but this is the Biden's EPA latest electrical vehicle regulations are causing truckers some problems. This popped in the Post-Millennial. Truckers warn of potential supply chain problems due to Biden's EPA's latest electrical vehicle regulations. President Biden proposed policies that will crush the supply chain and put the American food supply at risk, American trucking officials warn. American truckers have issued a warning about the Biden administration's plans for reducing air pollution by cracking down on heavy-duty vehicle emissions, saying that President Biden's proposed policies will crush the supply chain and put the American food supply at risk. Under the EPA, which aims to reduce emissions of nitrogen oxides and other pollutants by enacting stringent new regulations on heavy-duty vehicles and machinery, businesses will be subjected to unattainable standards, which will result in high inflation and put trucking companies out of business, American trucking officials warn. Yeah, actually, what will also happen too is that all of our costs of shipping will go up. And so we'll have higher prices, even more so than what we have right now. Folks, I'm telling you, this administration, we have no other choice. We have to get rid of these people. We have to get them out. And it's not just us. They're actually even some of the Democrat-run cities and Democrat-run places. Don't worry, buddy. I'm going to get to question for whiskey here in just a minute. I'm trying to just wrap up a couple of these articles. But the Nike store. Now, this is really weird because Nike is a Beaverton, Oregon-based company. They started in Beaverton, Oregon. Washington Examiner says that the Nike store in Portland shuts its doors as crime and safety concerns tear through the city. I've been talking about the California, especially San Francisco in particular, having problems. Well, Portland is also feeling the effects of that whole defund the police and stuff. So according to the Washington Examiner, Nike is reportedly closing its store in Northeast Portland, Oregon, citing safety and security concerns or issues for vacating the retail space. The Seoul Business District Association announced in a news release on Friday that Nike had said the company would be closing the store, per the Oregonian. Nike confirmed to the outlet that it would be reimagining the retail space and is considering future locations as part of this community's long-term revitalized plan. The Seoul District Business Association called the plan to shutter the store, which had been temporarily closed for most of the year, permanently, a major economic blow for the community. Yeah. Not kidding. Not kidding at all. All right. Let me go ahead. Let's get on into our question tonight. This is actually a twofer, believe it or not. So here we go. Questions for whiskey. This is a twofer because of the fact that I had one and I skipped it a couple weeks ago. Anyway, so let me talk. First of all, thank you for submitting the questions. The first one here is from 3 Chevy, and this one's going to be quick because it's actually dated. Let's see. Hey, whiskey. Again, required opening. Yes, you're right. It is required. Damn it. Anyway, in the light of the damage Florida has suffered from the hurricane, do you see Ron DeSanctimonious suspending his presidential campaign, basically using that as an excuse to pull out of the race? Well, as just to quickly answer that question, as we all know, he did not. He didn't pull out. He's not going to pull out. Continuing on with the question, here in Central Florida, we've had no issues at all. Prayers for those along the coastline that weren't as fortunate. Thank you for all the work you put into each broadcast. 3 Chevy. Thank you. I do appreciate that. So we also have, but as you can see, I mean, Ron is not going to get out. I'm kind of surprised that he suspended. Well, no, actually, I'm not. He suspended most of his campaign stops and went back to Florida when the hurricane was coming down, on him. And so I'm okay with that. That's cool. But to be honest with you, I just don't see him actually getting out. He never should have gotten in the first place, in my opinion. He should have finished out his governorship and then jumped in 2028. But hey, I'm not his campaign manager. Okay. So this next question comes to me from Buddy Weiser over on Rumble. Hey, whiskey. I hope this finds you well. Well, thank you. Question, please explain the Amnesty Act of 1872 and 1898 in relationship to the USC Amendment 14, the U.S. Constitution Amendment 14, Section 3. Okay, so Amendment 14, Section 3 is the one that they are trying to get Donald Trump kicked out on, okay? So here's the thing, all right? Here's the thing. So the 14th Amendment was originally put together, and especially Section 3, was put together in specific against the Confederacy, because if you recall, the 14th Amendment was done right after the Civil War. And the idea here was to make it so that anyone who participated in the Civil War would be exempt from government service. They would be kicked out because of the fact that, especially those that had previously sworn oath to the Constitution of the United States. So they, the 14th Amendment was designed to prevent people who essentially acted in the insurrection or gave aid and comfort to the enemy. You have to remember that part of it as well. That's part of the 14th Amendment, Section 3.2. Now, after the Civil War and the remaking of the country, there was a lot of tensions, obviously, for obvious reasons, throughout the country. And so there were a lot of things that were being pushed in terms of the representation that was coming from the South. In fact, the first congressional gathering after the Civil War, many of the people from the South, many of the representatives who were previously elected from the South showed up and were expecting to just go ahead and take their seats. And it caused a bit of an uproar and a bit of a stir. So what ended up coming out after that was what's known as the Amnesty Acts. Now, there's actually, I believe there's 3 of them. But the 2 that you called out in 1872 and 1898 are pretty specific. So the first one was a proclamation of amnesty and reconstruction, which came out in 1865, May 29th of 1865, which was under President Andrew Johnson. He issued an amnesty proclamation to induce all persons to return to their loyalty to the United States of America. It was actually, that particular one was the third of such proclamations, but was the first to offer amnesty at the conclusion of the war. So Johnson, as part of that proclamation, offered an oath to all participants in the rebellion that who, after swearing that oath, would be properly restored. Now, for those of you who are not as constitutionally proficient, you also know that an act of Congress can actually remove the restrictions of the 14th Amendment, provided it's 2/3 of both houses, meaning that 2/3 of the House of Representatives votes and 2/3 of the Senate. You have to have both of them at 2/3 in order to remove those restrictions. It cannot be just a 2/3 vote of both of them combined. So that's very clear and very distinct in the 14th Amendment. However, in 1872, okay, the Amnesty Act was a federal law that was, the idea, of course, was to reverse everything in Section 3 because of the fact that let's be honest, after the Civil War ended, it was really difficult to kind of weed out those who had participated in the Confederation and those that had not. And so they were actually having troubles getting representatives who did not fall for, or did not join in, I should say, for the Confederacy at the time. And so, yeah, there's a lot of question. And the same thing happened in 1898 with the whole Spanish-American War. Okay. There was an amnesty over that as well, because of the fact that, again, the 14th Amendment, its language is a little vague, to be honest. I mean, it's very clear in terms of the specific actions or crimes, but it's a little vague in terms of things like, do you have to be convicted of that in a court of law, which is what the left is really pushing for when it comes to the 14th Amendment. So here's the thing, is that there is a potential that if somebody were to potentially be able to, at one point, get rid of Donald Trump off of a state ballot, because of the 14th Amendment, using these amnesty acts of 1872, 1898, the proclamation, so on and so forth, and the treatment of these people after the Civil War and the reunification of the Union, there is a potential that that could be used as a defense. To be honest with you, it would probably be pretty clever. But this is part of the reason why the 14th Amendment is a bit of a troublesome thing to try and enforce, because, again, the whole idea of the 14th Amendment was to prevent the Confederates and the people in the Confederacy from rejoining the American government. And that was a little bit tricky to take. Now, it was political pressure that pushed and got these amnesty acts put into place. Okay. So yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, again, the Constitution is in one case, you know, fairly absolute, but can be modified by constitutional amendments. And then you have things like additive, you know, acts at a federal level, such as the Amnesty Acts and so on and so forth, that kind of modify and specify and clarify a little bit more about what the intention or the perceived intention of the amendments actually were. So this whole thing with trying to get Trump off the ballot, I mean, it's all bogus. It's all bull. In my opinion, it's a bunch of crap, because he hasn't even been accused of insurrection in any of the cases that he is dealing with. Not a single one of them has a charge levied against him of either insurrection or sedition. So this is all BS. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of these people are, you know, there's a lot of legal nuances to this whole thing. And I highly doubt that we're going to get into a situation where Donald Trump is actually not going to be able to be on the ballot due to the 14th Amendment. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. Right now, it's going to be really, really surprising if they were able to, take it out. So, and if it happens, it's going to be it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to have to, you know, rule on it. And they're going to be looking at these amnesty acts and so on and so forth, and the reinstatement of people who were part of the Confederacy and so on and so forth. They're going to be looking at all of that, or at least they should. That is an awesome question. I was actually really excited to get that, and that's why I had to put it in as a second part to the first one. So here's the thing. If you want to have me research and answer a question for Whiskey, send me an email to fans, FANS, at whiskeymusings.online. That's fans at whiskeymusings.online. You can send me a question for my Saturday night segment, Questions for Whiskey. You can also use that same email to send me a question, send me a pet of the week and have your pet featured. But speaking about that really quick, Outlaw Dogs has a channel over on Rumble. Outlaw Dogs has a channel over on Rumble, and she has been putting up shorts, which she's been calling a sip of whiskey. I'm honored. I'm glad that she's doing it. It is incredible. I think it's great. But if for all of those who have had a pet on Pet of the Week already, she is offering up, if you want it, you need to just reach out to her either in the chats here or elsewhere, and reach out to her, Outlaw Dogs, and she will go ahead and create a sip of whiskey with your Pet of the Week. So you need to reach out to her on that. And, we'll see how many people take it up, but she does a really good job with the videos. I have to say, by cutting my stuff out, she does a really, really good job with them. And if you are of a mind to just get a sip of whiskey when I'm not transmitting, go ahead and run on over to her channel, and take a look at the sip of whiskey over there, over on Rumble. You can head on over to her channel on Rumble for it. All right. That is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to Rumble, sign up for an account, and when you do, it's free, by the way, but when you do, get on over to that Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel and hit the follow button. It's the green button. Hit the follow button so you'll know when I start transmitting. And also keep in mind, too, that if I get banned by YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc., on on the the liberal leftist kind of channels, you can always find me on Rumble. Rumble is my favorite place, and that's where I hang out. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We've got the Constitution Day coming up, I think sometime, and we've got some great stuff coming up in the near future, because of course we have, Veterans Day and everything else, and I try to do special things for that. Armed Forces Day, the birthday of the Marine Corps, and so on and so forth. So we've got a lot of stuff, jam-packed September for you. So do me a favor, come back, tune in to the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel. We'll see you next time, Wednesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings Broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.